जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दना व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदा नन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुनतीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दना व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दना व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनतीरावनचारि 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 जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दना व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदा नन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुनतीरा वनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा गोपी जना वल्लभा राधा गोपी जना वल्लभा जय निताय पतिता पावन गौर हरि जय निताय पतिता पावन गौर हरि प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रुति डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरण अरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर स्तुत His Divine Grace श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Agyantimirandhasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे पंचतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपास्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्. So we are starting a new chapter today. It is chapter 25. Very beautiful chapter. Third canto, first verse. The name of the chapter is The Glories of Devotional Service. Very nice. The name of the chapter itself so nice. The Glories of Devotional Service. That's what Bhagavatam class is meant for. That's what all the Sangha is meant for. Is to glorify devotional service. Sonaka uvacha kapilastattva sankhyata bhagavan atma mayaya jata swayam aja sakshat atma pragyaptaye nrinam. Sonaka uvacha kapilastattva sankhyata bhagavan atma mayaya jataha swayam aja sakshat atma pragyaptaye nrinam. Saunaka uvacha kapilastattva sankhyata bhagavan atma mayaya jataha swayam aja sakshat atma pragyaptaye nrinam. Synonyms and translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sonaka Uvacha, Sri Sonaka said, Kapilaha, Lord Kapila, Tattva of the truth, Sankhyata, the expounder, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Atma Mayaya, by his internal potency, Jataha, took birth, Swayam, himself, Ajaha, unborn, Sakshat, in person, Atma, Pragyaptaye, to disseminate transcendental knowledge, Nrinam, for the human race. Sri Sonaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Once again, Sri Sanaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. The word Atma Pragyaptaye indicates that the Lord descends for the benefit of the human race to give transcendental knowledge. Material necessities are quite sufficiently provided for in the Vedic knowledge, which offers a program for good living conditions and gradual elevation to the platform of goodness. Once again, this line, material necessities are quite sufficiently provided for in the Vedic knowledge, which offers a program for good living conditions and gradual elevation to the platform of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one's knowledge expands. On the platform of passion, there is no knowledge, for passion is simply an impetus to enjoy material benefits. On the platform of ignorance, there is no knowledge and no enjoyment, but simply life almost like that of animals. The Vedas are meant to elevate one from the mode of ignorance to the platform of goodness. When one is situated in the mode of goodness, he is able to understand knowledge of the self or transcendental knowledge. This knowledge cannot be appreciated by any ordinary man. Therefore, since a disciplic succession is required, this knowledge is expounded either by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself or by his bona fide devotee. Sonaka Muni also states here that Kapila, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, took birth or appeared simply to appreciate and disseminate transcendental knowledge, simply to understand that one is not matter but spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi. I am by nature Brahman. Is not sufficient knowledge for understanding the self and his activities. One must be situated in the activities of Brahman. Knowledge of those activities is explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Such transcendental knowledge can be appreciated in human society, but not in animal society, as clearly indicated by the word Nrinam for the human beings. Human beings are meant for regulated life. By nature, there is regulation in human life also, but that is not like the regulative life as described in the scripture or by the authorities. Human life is regulated life, not animal life. In regulated life only can one understand transcendental knowledge. Translation: Sri Sonaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. So there is a description of the Lord descending to this material world, and the purpose is described. First thing described is the Lord descend is not covered by external energy, but it is Atma Maya. It's by his own internal potency. When a common living entity is born, he has a body which is made up of three modes, and the desires of the soul are also covered by three modes. So in that way, one takes birth under the influence of external energy, but the Lord descent is compared and like Srila Prabhupada gives an example of a sun. The sun appears and disappears, and when it disappears, appears somewhere else. Likewise, the Lord, out of his own compassion for the welfare of living entities, he appears in one universe, performs his transcendental pastimes, give transcendental knowledge, which are meant to purify the heart of conditioned souls, and those um, those activities of the Lord are very attractive. Anybody who hears them, their heart becomes pure. They develop attraction for the Lord. They develop desire to participate in those activities of the Lord, and eventually attraction to spiritual subject matters, attraction to spiritual world, attraction to activities of the spiritual world inspires one to not be a part of this material world anymore. Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, what is separating us from the spiritual world is a desire. And unless one desires to go back to Godhead, one is not going to go there. Unless one desires. As long as one desires success in this material world, or some lab, some profit in this material world, one will be given the opportunities to fulfill those desires. Um, but gradually, what happens as one hears about Krishna, initially, one hears about Krishna. Hearing about Krishna includes hearing about the word spoken by Krishna, which is Bhagavad Gita, hearing about the pure devotees of Krishna, and hearing about the activities of Krishna himself. Hearing about Krishna because Prabhupada says Krishna includes his devotees, um, the entire Antaraj. Hearing about Vrindavan, which is a dham, which is also dham is also a manifestation of Krishna. So, anyways, the conditioned soul is completely engrossed um, and attracted to this material world, the attraction of this material world. And Srila Prabhupada says that is natural because we have been associating with this material world since time immemorial, and we have many, many desires. Whatever desires we have today is based on our karma. In other words, whatever desires we had in a previous life are coming back to us now. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matta Smriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha, from me comes remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. So whatever unfulfilled desires we had from the previous life, the Lord reminds us back. And then the mind is also conditioned because of the samskar, because of whatever attraction mind has experienced in the past. Mind want to repeat those activities, and in that way, one is completely bound by the three modes of material nature. But when one meets a devotee, hears about Bhagavad Gita, hears about the spiritual world, hears about Krishna's form, qualities, pastimes, his flute, hears about anything related to Krishna, one loses his material world, loses his grip on that conditioned soul, and one start becoming attracted. And it is like in one of the verses, which Maharaj Pratap Rudra sang for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was participating in Rath Yatra, and he exhibited very divine ecstatic symptoms, very divine dance, where he divided the devotees into 7 groups. 4 Sankirtan parties were in the front, 2 on the side, 1 behind, and they were lead dancers, 2 mridangas, 4 kartals, lead singer in each of the group. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his pastime of simultaneously expanding in all the 7 Sankirtan party because of his infinite desire to be with all the devotees and to dance in the Sankirtan. And then Mahaprabhu brought all the 7 groups in the center in front of Lord Jagannath and danced in a very like divine ecstatic symptoms he exhibited. This comes in Madhya Leela. And then um, Lord Jagannath, he stayed there. He just wanted to watch Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance. There were transcendental pastimes that were going on between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath. Um, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered beautiful prayers to Lord Jagannath. One of the prayers he offered at that instance is Naham Vipro Nacha Narapati Napi Vaishyo Na Shudro Naham Varni Nacha Grihapati Na Vanisto Yatirva Kintu Prayodhyam Nikhila Paramananda Purnamritabdhe Gopir Bhartor Padakamale Dasa Das Anudasaha. And then various other prayers like Jayati Jayati, um, all glories to Jananivas. Beautiful 3 prayers are mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was glorifying Jagannath. Um, this particular verse, we know, I am not a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, nor I am a Brahmachari, I am not a Grihastha, I am not a sannyasi, I am not a Vanaprastha, I am servant of Krishna, who is the Lord of the Gopis. Gopi Bhartur Pada Kamali Dasta Savinas. And then after that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went into the nearby garden and he took some rest. That time Maharaj Pratap Rudra came uh, dressed as a Brahmana and he started massaging the feet of the Lord and he started singing Gopi Geet. And when he came to this verse which says, uh, anyone remembers the beginning of that verse?
Tavakatamritam trapta jivanam.
Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam. What is the next line? Okay.
Is it Bhuvigrana?
That is the last line. Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Jana. There, this particular verse, what it means is Srimad Atatam. Shri means the divine potency of the Lord. The divine potency of the Lord. Srimad Atatam means Tava Kathamritam. This is song sung by the gopis glorifying um, the purifying effect of Krishna Katha. And there it says Tava Kathamritam, the glories, activities, anything about Krishna is like Amrit, divine potency, Tava Kathamritam, and it says Srimadatam, and they are filled with internal potency. And then it says Kalmashapaham, anybody who hears Krishna Katha, Kalmashapaham. Kalmash is all the unwanted things. Kalmashapaham means everything, all the impurities are removed from the heart. Kalmashapaham. And then it says, Bhuvi Dinanti Bhurida Jana. Bhurida is wherever the Krishna Katha is discussed, it is the act itself is very merciful because anybody any one of us goes around or at any point of time either discuss or hear the glories of the Lord. It itself is an act of mercy because everybody becomes purified because these activities or the Krishna Katha, the discussion about Krishna, is filled with divine potency that can purify the heart. Same thing comes in Srimad Bhagavatam also, where it says, when the Lord sitting in the heart as Paramatma, when he sees that one has developed the eagerness to hear about the Lord removes the impurities from the heart of that devotee. So, I don't know which flow I was going with. Anyways, these glories of the Lord are self-munificent. And yes, now why the Lord descends? So this particular verse is describing about the descent of Lord Kapila Muni, who comes by his Atmamaya internal potency, and the reason he comes and the reason Krishna comes is so that he can perform his pastimes. And when he goes away, um, although he goes away because he is not different from his name, from his activities, and from his words, whatever he spoke, they remain on this planet. And anybody who accesses those becomes purified. And this is the only way to, because it is said that living entities are eternally bound in the cycle of birth and death. The only way one can escape from this cycle of birth and death is the descent of the Lord. And when the Lord descends, um, he comes for a short time, but then his words and his activities remain forever. And devotees come together and devotees discuss about him, and that's how they go to him. So this is the main reason why he descends is, and this is, and why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descend is to show by his own example how to practice devotional service. So this particular verse, La Prabhupada emphasizes on coming to the mode of goodness. Now the question remains, how can we come to the mode of goodness? Prabhupada speaks about knowledge. He speaks about when we come to mode of goodness, then in the mode of goodness, we can understand the knowledge as it is. When we are mode of passion, then Prabhupada says we cannot understand the knowledge because one is absorbed in self-enjoyment or sense gratification. In the mode of ignorance, Prabhupada says, so mode of goodness, once knowledge increases, mode of passion, we cannot understand knowledge, but we look for material happiness. And in mode of ignorance, one is miserable because one cannot enjoy material happiness, and one cannot get the knowledge also. Srila Prabhupada also described how in this Western world, especially in the Western world, 99% of people are influenced by mode of passion, ignorance. And what can help us at this point of time, especially devotees, to come to mode of goodness is devotional service. And we see in Bhagavatam, it says, by hearing about Krishna and by rendering service to pure devotees of Krishna and by hearing about Krishna, mode of passion and mode of ignorance, which is characterized by lust and greed, they diminish and one becomes established in Sattva Guna. And that stage is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Nishtha, when one is established in Sattva Guna with respect to devotional service. So really there are two ways to increase the goodness within ourselves. One is primary method, one is secondary method. Primary method is intense devotional service. If we try to absorb ourselves more and more in devotional service, we'll certainly come to mode of goodness. That's the primary way. And secondary way is by living the activities of mode of goodness, by associating with those who are in the mode of goodness, by eating food that is in mode of goodness. Like by having a regulation. Prabhupada said human life is meant for regulated life. Regulated life means getting up early in the morning, chanting our rounds, having a time for reading on a daily basis, or having a schedule and every day repeating the same schedule that will increase our goodness. Association helps. When we associate with those in mode of passion, it will increase our passion, but association of those in the mode of goodness will increase our goodness. So these secondary methods help. And then the primary method of devotional service. In devotional service, the most important thing is chanting. And if we chant sincerely and don't do anything along with chanting and give, what do we say, a focused a focused, solid time in chanting, not like chanting while driving, chanting while working, chanting while washing clothes, chanting while doing other activities, but a focused chanting um, uh, with trying to absorb ourselves, that will help us to come to mode of goodness very quickly. One should try one's best to concentrate while chanting, because if one is not concentrating, surely the effect will not be the same. There is one verse in second canto Srimad Bhagavatam which describes if after trying to focus on the holy name of the Lord with concentration, one does not feel any divine pleasure, then the heart must be considered as steel framed. I mean, naturally, we are all, I'm talking about myself, our heart is steel framed. What makes our heart hard is the offenses. Um, and when the more we become free from offenses, the more we become pure, then the heart becomes more and more soft. Hard heart is very eager to find fault. Every small thing will try to become proud. These are all symptoms of hard heart. And when the consciousness is not that of bhakti, when it is overcome by envy, overcome by material desires, uh, by greed, accumulation, um, fault finding tendencies, pride of one's own self. When heart is covered by these things, naturally, these are symptoms of steel framed heart. Um, then, even with that consciousness, even if we try to chant with concentration, it's relatively difficult to experience the divinity. Um, and these emotions are also not with us all the time, but they come and go. But when they come, they definitely impact our chanting. And we have experience when these emotions are not there and we are filled with the mood of bhakti, then if we chant the holy name with concentration, we feel some divine pleasure, but our heart is not free from this. And it is the offenses that, our past karma can result to all these thought process, and the offenses can result in all these thought process. Generally, when devotees are chanting for some time, the effect of these anarthas arising from past karma, they reduce significantly if one is sincere. Um, but the offenses will again give rise to all these things. Um, like Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur describes anarthas arising from bhakti itself. All kind of anarthas, lust, envy. Envy can arise because of bhakti. Lust can arise. Um, Pride will arise. So there are various anarthas that arise from bhakti itself, and they take much longer time to go away. But the point I'm trying to say is chanting with concentration, because even that verse says that while chanting with concentration, if the heart does not melt, then the heart must be considered as steel framed. Um, and Arjuna says in Bhagavad Gita that um, by focusing on you, by focusing on your name with concentration, one derives great joy within one's heart. By focusing on you, one becomes joyful, he says in 11th chapter Bhagavad Gita. Just by hearing about you, one becomes joyful. So the point is, mind needs to be focused, and there has to be full effort in focusing the mind. And it is almost impossible. I mean, those who are putting full effort in focusing the mind, when they try to chant, the mind get distracted. Obviously, if we are not very mature, then if we chant with other things, where will the melting of the heart takes place? So the process is foolproof. Um, it is certainly going to be beneficial. It's just a matter of our sincerity. Our progress is depend upon our attitude and our sincerity. Um, if I mean, there are many things that are not in our hands, but one thing which is in our hand is our sincerity. That is one thing which is in our hand, and that will define our progress tomorrow. If we are sincere, surely you will see the benefit over a period of time gradually. But we have to be patient and we have to be sincere over a period of time. It's easy to become familiar with the process. And moreover, it's discouraging when we are not experiencing bhakti because of whatever reasons. It's easy to deviate and it's easy to go into the path of sense gratification, especially when we become weak in our Krishna consciousness. But there comes, yes, there are many things unavoidable, but at least I can be sincere. At least I can be sincere. Independent of how I feel, what my state of consciousness, what's my state of advancement, independent of those, I can sincerely go and serve. I can hear from devotees. I can try my best to chant. If there are pots, I can wash some pots. If some cleaning is required, I can do some cleaning. I can take more responsibilities. Independent of how I feel, I can show my sincerity by my activities. Sincerity means um, trying trying to serve in every situation, looking for more and more opportunities to render service, which is opposite of complacency. Complacency means, I will do this much and that's all I can do, and I have to balance the myth of balance. So sincerity means, let me do something more. I have some free time. What can I do here? And also, if we have a desire to be constantly engaged, to constantly serve, it all depends upon one's desire. Krishna will reciprocate. If you have desire, my Lord, I need 2 hours for my own things, which is not connected to Krishna, not connected to my work, not connected to family responsibilities, but my own personal desire to enjoy. Krishna will give us that time. But then how quickly, everything is based on one's desire, but then how quickly we make progress is our sincerity. And that's why there is a lot of focus on um, um, doing our devotional service with concentration, especially the chanting with concentration. And the best way to chant with concentration is by hearing the vibrations. These vibrations, sometimes lack of patience is described by, let me do this in chanting, let me do this in chanting, let me do that in chanting, because um, we are not able to experience that transcendental sound vibration. When Prabhupada was asked what is the meaning of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Prabhupada would say, these are transcendental sound vibrations. And Prabhupada would say that there is no need to understand the meaning of Mahamantra also, because this sound, they descend from the spiritual world and they are transcendental sound vibration. Um, Transcendental sound vibration means these names are transcendental, and what it means when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says Nam Nam Akari Bahudani Sarva Shakti, that the Lord has invested all his potencies in these names. So how can the names be dry? Um, uh, so that's why there is importance of, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, uh, fix your concentration on hearing the sound vibration, and do it with all sincerity. The solution, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, close yourself in a room, put a cloth around your eyes so you cannot see anything. It's just a way how Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing is focus, 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 focus. When chanting becomes weak, everything is gone. We will lose the desire to read, no interest in reading, no interest in hearing, no interest in association, fault finding, material desires will increase. Everything, they're all mal effects of inattentive chanting. Everything will increase, increase, increase. That's why our only hope is chanting with concentration. Many times we discuss it is very high, but then what it means when Rupa Goswami says, I don't know how much nectar these two words Krishna have produced. And it conquers my senses. My mind becomes inert and my senses are conquered. So, and these are transcendental sound vibration. But the thing is, to come to mode of goodness, it is the devotional service, which is a primary method. Once mode of goodness increases, the knowledge will increase. The Lord comes to give that knowledge. Mode of goodness will itself bring the regulated life. These are some of the points that Prabhupada is mentioning. And primary methods it can come is by concentrated, focused chanting and being sincere. Okay, so let's see if there is any discussion. That's all I have. Okay, thank you very much. We'll end here. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Then pranams to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Then pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandat Pranam.